Hey, this is Joe from Home Studio Corner. You know what? Let's swap places. There we go. That's better. Today I want to talk to you about why I use this in my studio as my primary audio interface and why I really do think you should consider incorporating some sort of a mixer into your workflow. So this, just so you know, is a PreSonus Studio Live Series 3 mixer. This is a couple of generations old at this point. I had the previous version of this mixer before this one. So I've been using these in my studio for almost a decade now, and I don't think I could ever go back. So we're going to talk about that today. There's a good chance you clicked on this video because you like things like mixers and recording studios and recording equipment. If so, you would love my ultimate recording checklist. You can have it for free. It's a single one-page thing you can print out, keep it in your mix position to help you whenever you're producing a song, to make sure you're producing things that A, sound good, but B, are interesting and engaging and really help move the song forward. It's what we call being a producer versus just being a recording engineer. You can have that for free. Just go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist. In a world where audio interfaces can fit in the palm of your hand, why would anyone ever want a big honkin' mixer over just an audio interface? I want to talk about that today because there are a few good reasons. The first one for me is a mixer gives me plenty of I/O. By I/O, I mean inputs and outputs. Outputs I don't care as much about, but inputs is really where it's at for me, mainly because I do things like recording sessions where I record a drum kit and we might put 8 or 12 microphones on the kit. And at the same time, I might record my guitar in stereo, like through an outboard, like a Helix or something like that. And then bass player might have an amp with a direct out and then also a microphone on the amp as well. And anything else that we could do, I can accomplish that with this mixer because it gives me, this one gives me, I can't even remember. I want to say it's got 24 preamps on there. Technically, it can go up to 32 channels. I never have used all 24, but I've used 12 to 14 at one time, and having those available is super handy. Now, just so you know, this is a digital mixer, meaning it plugs in USB to my computer, and it behaves as my audio interface in addition to also being just an actual mixer. So if you've ever tried to record more than 8 inputs, you know that it can be fairly annoying. There are a lot of rack mount interfaces that give you 8 microphone inputs. And to get more, you typically need another piece of equipment. Back about a decade and a half ago, a lot of folks were using optical cables, ADAT, light pipe, to take a single interface and to bring in an additional 8 channels via that digital connection. That's fine, and those are still valid options that exist in the market, but you have to have another piece of rack mount equipment. There's the whole sample rate thing you got to make sure you get right all the time, make sure they're synchronized together. It's a hassle, whereas this mixer is a single device that gives me a crap load, that's the technical term, a technical crap load of inputs into my system. So if I want to record 12 mics on the drums, 3 inputs on me, guitar and vocal, and then 2 inputs for the bass, I'm good to go. I can do that, no problem. Also, this gives me the ability to kind of be ready for anything. If someone comes over and says, I've got a huge horn section, we're going to put people in your entire house and record 24 channels of audio, I'll say, all right, let's do it. As long as I've got enough microphones and stands, we can make that happen. Also, in a pinch, I could use this mixer to run front of house for a live show. If I go to my church this Sunday and they say, our mixer's completely dead in the water, what do? I can just run home, grab my mixer, and make it work, right? This is a full-on live sound mixer that I happen to also use in my studio. That's why it's called the Studio Live. Now, full disclosure, I am a PreSonus fanboy. I have worked for and with PreSonus for a long time, so I am 100% biased, but everything I'm talking about today applies to really any mixer. Especially another digital mixer. So if you are looking at like the Behringer, I think the PreSonus is cooler, or a Midas or something like that, they all kind of do the same thing and they all provide the same benefits we're talking about today. So another benefit that I love, this is probably my favorite and it's the least exciting, but it makes me excited. So we're going to talk about it, is the fact that a mixer has no latency. What do I mean by latency? So if you've ever recorded with a USB or FireWire or whatever audio interface, you know that when you press the record button in your software, a lot of times, if you're recording through the software, there's a latency there. I can sing into the microphone, but what I hear back through my headphones is coming back a little bit later. So we play that game where we adjust the latency settings in our software. We bring the settings down so that we can record, and then we turn them back up when we go to like edit and mix and things like that. Now, there's a lot of hardware and software solutions for that. A lot of interfaces, like this is a Revelator interface from Personas, has a built-in, like a software that you can run that gives you basically low latency coming out of the interface. But it's an extra, no matter how you, whether you're using that or like a universal audio or really any piece of hardware, like an interface, there's an extra piece of software you have to run in addition to your DAW to get all that to work. So I would have to have, if it's RME has their total control, I think it's what it's called, and Universal Audio has their own little mixer, and this Revelator from Personas has its own little mixing software. So I have to have Studio One open as my DAW, and then I also have to have this other software open to run my low latency mix. Guess what? I don't have to do that with a mixer. Whether it's a Studio Live mixer like this or even just a straight up analog mixer, I can listen directly off the mixer with no latency. Why? Because it's a mixer. It's designed to be used in a live environment. If I'm singing a song on stage and playing my guitar, I want to hear that right away. Any mixer that you would use in a live environment provides that, right? It's not technically no latency. It's probably a couple milliseconds maybe, but that's normal, and that feels great from a performance standpoint. So now I bring that into the studio, and I literally just set my buffer settings as high as I want. I never touch them again, because when we're tracking a full band album, I could literally set up our headphone mix and all the inputs without even bringing my laptop to the studio. Like laptops downstairs, we could come up and spend the day getting sounds, setting levels, setting up headphone mixes, all from the mixer. And then we can eventually open Studio One, plug in the laptop, and actually start recording it. But that's the benefit of everyone's just listening off the board. The computer could literally shut down in the middle of a take. We would lose the click track, but we would still hear everything from the board. So that, to me, obviously that's useless because you lost the recording, but you get my point. We are doing everything from the board to where the DAW, during a recording session at least, really just behaves like a tape machine or those cool Radar 24-track digital recorders that used to be really popular around like the Nashville area as like an alternative to tape, but not a digital audio workstation. Anyway, that is one of my favorite things about using a mixer, and people get confused about it when I say, what do you mean by no latency? I mean, I can put on headphones, listen to this microphone, and I hear it right away without having to change anything ever. And that also gets recorded into the software. It's a great workflow. I don't think I would ever go back to just an interface when this has become a real core part of my workflow. Speaking of workflow, having a mixer in my workflow makes me incredibly efficient, especially when it comes to content creation. I'm a big fan of what you might call multi-tools, something that I can use for multiple purposes. So for a recording session, we've talked about the mixer is great, but also for what I'm doing right now, the mixer is great. Take a look. I've got my microphone here, and it is plugged into channel 3 on the mixer, okay? And then you can see if I was playing back something from my DAW, Studio One, it would come down this channel. If I was playing anything back from my iMac, actually it's the laptop now, from my computer, like iTunes or something like that, would come down this channel. My Helix is here, and then you can see where I've got other channels for when we had a tracking session. But what's cool is you may have noticed I don't have headphones on when I do these videos, but then I hit play, and I'm playing music out of my speakers, but you only hear the music. You don't hear the music getting picked up by the microphone. Why is that? Because, also, why is my microphone not feeding back when I'm sitting feet away from the speakers and I'm talking into a condenser microphone? Because the way the mixer is set up, you saw those solo buttons were engaged. I've got it set up to only send what I solo out to the speakers. That means the microphone isn't going to the speakers, but then I've also got it set up internally to send the computer the entire mix, meaning the microphone plus everything else I have feeding through the mixer. So you're hearing my voice on the mixer, and then anything I play back from Studio One, I'm actually only hearing the playback from Studio One, and my voice is not coming out of the speakers. And when I do play something back from Studio One, I just press mute on this microphone like this. Blah, blah, blah. See, you couldn't hear me because I muted my microphone. It's a physical mute button. Now, can you do that with software and like a loop deck or something like that, Stream Deck or whatever? Yeah, absolutely, that you could pull that off. But man, this is a workflow I've done for years to where this is just second nature to hit play and hit mute at the same time. And I'm able to, what that allows me to do is I don't have to record my vocal to another track of audio somewhere else and have the computer audio somewhere else. And then I'm having to edit, and like when the audio is playing, I'm having to like edit out my vocal microphone and then, mute that part for that section, then bring it back in. That's a bunch of work that I don't have to do because I get it right here at the source by muting my microphone on the way in. So when I go to edit my video, the audio is untouched. It's ready to go. My voice is coming through here. My audio is coming through here. It's all hitting a limiter on the way to the video recording software. So all I have to do in editing is just chop out the parts where I don't say the right thing, and we're done. We're down to a good video. So efficiency is a hugely important thing to me because I want to do valuable work, but I also want to do it quickly. And thinking about the idea of multi-tool, even if you're not thinking about content creation in the pure like YouTuber standpoint, having a mixer to say, let's say you produce an album for an artist, and then you say, hey, why don't you come over on release day and let's do a live stream performance where you play and sing maybe with your band, and I mix it through my board, and that mix gets sent up to the YouTube live stream or whatever you're using for that. That is an option because you have a live mixer. That is not an option if you do not have a mixer, because you can't really do a live mix in real time without something like a mixer in front of you. You probably noticed I didn't say anything about the fact that I can use these faders to control my software. That's technically true, but I actually don't even use it for that because I primarily use it for the reasons I've already mentioned in this video. It's nice having a good-looking piece of equipment here in the studio. It's tactile, it's fun to play with, and it's incredibly useful. Plus, it doesn't have to be like the big digital mixer. It could be something like this. This is like the Studio Live's little brother, the AR mixer. So it's just a full-on analog mixer like you're used to seeing, right? Except it has some digital components that allow you to still record, 13, 16 channels of audio. But this, like as far as like budget-wise, this is a lot more accessible, affordable if you don't need the full-on digital system. So if I had to start over and do things again, I'd probably go with this. To save a few bucks because I get essentially all the benefits I talked about without having to pay more money. So there you go. For folks who are asking why I use a big honkin' mixer in my studio, that's why. Also, if you love mixers, you love recording, don't forget about my ultimate recording checklist. It comes with an accompanying video that walks you through my thought process for each checkbox on the checklist, why it makes sense, how to use it on your next production to get incredible results. You can have that for free, super easy. Just go to homestudiocorner.com/checklist. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.